Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Alberto Willis. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Alberto Willis. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Alberto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, as usual, and also I'm going to play the interview that I did with Tell It Like It Is today with Ben Dixon and Rebecca Azor. So we're going to have some fun today. We're going to have some fun. How was your weekend? I trust your weekend was all fun. I had a workful weekend, but an enjoyable weekend. How was yours? Tell me about it. I'd love to hear the good stuff. You know, before I get started, I don't get into the royal stuff and all of that, right? But I must say, I went down to have dinner during 60 Minutes. And, 60 Minutes kind of merged into the interview that they did. And when they did that interview, I said to myself, you know what? Let me stick around and watch it. So I stuck around and I watched it. And I tell you, it was difficult to hear. It was, Meghan went through a hell of a lot, in as much as, based on what she said, she has tried not to, tried to be, it was just difficult. But to see that also right out, someone says, well, how dark do you think your kid's gonna be? If you can't empathize with a pregnant woman being asked something like that, I mean, imagine of the entire interview, the interview showed a whole lot of dysfunction within the royal family. But that one touches two things there. That her kid would not get the title, the royal title, and that it was asked if, what the color of the kid is going to be. How dark is the kid going to be? Can any one of you really empathize with that, having been told that? I don't know. Watching that and knowing that she was pregnant, that really touched me really hard. But anyhow, let's go ahead and get busy. I see Michael running with his research. Fewer than 1 in 5 support the Defund Police movement. USA Today Ipsos polls find we got a huge messaging problem here. This movement needs a new slogan, as most Americans still don't know what it's about. The call to redistribute police budget stemmed from Black Lives Matter activists and protesters who called the Defund the Police after the deaths of unnamed Black Americans who died at the hands of police, such as George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. While some believe defunding the police is a call to get rid of law enforcement completely, many activists behind the slogan intended to make a more nuanced argument for police to be steered toward community social programs, where less often required to take on better roles. I'm not going to read the rest, because it's true. There's a messaging problem there. There's a serious messaging problem, and I brought it up one time to some of the founders of this hashtag, and they said, this is what it means, and, if you're doing too much explaining, when you're messaging, there's something that I think we all should learn, and that is, it is as a messenger, as somebody putting out a message, it is my responsibility if my initial message does not land to do what it takes to make sure that message lands. So if I like the term defund the police probably mostly because I understand what it means. But if most people don't understand it, and if we allowed it by that misunderstanding to be maligned by the right to mean something else, it is our responsibility to make the adjustment. It's not about us. It's not about. It should never be about my intent on wanting that word. It should never be my obstinance to I am right. If I am right and nobody's listening, who cares if I'm right? And that's what I think a lot of people need to get with some of these programs. Okay, Fresno Police face scrutiny after video shows a man who later pleaded, I can't breathe. Police are on the business. What? Police are on the business end of systemic racism. That's not new. This is going to be hard to watch. Uncut video shows how Fresno man died, face down in dirt with police sitting on his back. I mean, it's almost academic. This is what happens. And the last one from Michael Rudnan, we knew even before the pandemic that 78% of workers were living paycheck to paycheck, said Brian Hamilton, Senior Vice President of Smart Dollar. These money problems follow people to work, leading to more problems. The supermajority of Americans were living paycheck to paycheck before the pandemic hit, always on the knife's edge of just 2 or 3 emergencies away from eviction and homelessness. These are the people who most Republicans as well as a handful of Democrats want to ignore. But ignoring poverty on this scale is a recipe for both crime and revolution. Exactly right. And folks, I want you to concentrate. Remember and put the message out. Every single Republican politician voted against the COVID relief bill. Every single Republican politician. Stamp that everywhere you can, all over the internet, all over the newspapers, all over. Every Republican politician voted against feeding people. Every Republican politician voted against making people whole in a pandemic. Remember to place that out there. They failed in their duty. Bridge MCP, welcome aboard. AVQ, welcome aboard. Michael Rudden, welcome aboard. Julie Van Ostel, welcome aboard. Bridge MCP. Okay, now let me tell you something, Hayes. I am not going to make Cuomo an issue. Let New York take care of Cuomo. Let New York decide what they want to do with Cuomo. And, Cuomo is not accused of raping as Donald Trump wasn't, and I didn't see people making a big deal out of that. What Cuomo did was wrong. What Cuomo did, making women feel as if whatever he made them feel was wrong. Let them take care of that in New York. I'm not going to make that a national issue. I am not going to take up that issue. It makes no sense for me to do so. It's a distraction from all the major parts that we have to take care of in what's going wrong in America. So Cuomo, I said before, I will not be discussing Cuomo. I will not be blogging about Cuomo. I won't be writing about Cuomo because, again, that's a localized issue that should be taken care of locally. Julie Van Osel, yay, I finally caught you live. Thank you. I so love seeing you with 2 of my favorite progressives, Ben Dixon and Rebecca Azor this morning. I had fun with them. I love those 2. It's 60 degrees here in Minnesota, and I'm in heaven. Listen, and I'm going to play back. You're going to see the interview again because I'm going to play that for the folks. We had a great interview this morning. All right, is crime up? Yes. Why is crime up? Most of the crime that's up has to do with domestic violence, horrendous. I guess people can get married, but if they have to stay together too long, there's an issue. Oh my God. No, I'm telling you, we have to learn to live together. Daniel, LOL, every failed progressive talking point is a messaging problem. It's never the policy. Well, I mean, anyhow, I won't touch that one. Michael Ronan, having to explain defund the police every time means that the phrase was wrong one to choose. Anyone have a good risk placement? I don't know, but you can start one, Michael Rudnan. Not the issue or question the policy points out the states with similar policies are wrong and points out bigger issues. No. Again, there's one thing that is important that everybody should realize when we talk about policy. Remember that blue states are supporting red states. If you want to talk about policy, that's a nasty statement I just made. It's a partisan statement, but unfortunately it's a true statement. If blue states are cash positive and putting more into the federal coffers, and red states are taking out more money out of the federal coffers, shouldn't we just call them takers, the red states takers, that they don't know how to handle their fiscal responsibility because they have to take more than they give? Be careful when you're pointing fingers. You generally have a way of pointing back, my brothers and sisters. Nanette Bird Smith, Republicans don't care about the commoners, Republican politicians. I want to start separating Republican politicians from Republicans, the people. I have a lot of Republicans in the House, and I love my Republicans in the House. They're not politicians. They just want to survive like we do. Michael Rudnin says, New Yorker here. I think Cuomo is on the last term in office. I think so too. Julie Van Dahl said, did you all see Alberto and Ben Dixon this morning? I'm going to play it for everybody. Nope, on this COVID issue. Not okay. Courtney, the SLP, I'm here from the morning show. All right, thank you so kindly for being here, Courtney. Love you. Let's see. You ignore murder. It doesn't support your narrative. I don't never ignore murder. Never do. Nanette Bird Smith. That's true, unfortunately. Okay, we better get with the program because I got a long program for you guys today. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Listen, guys. I'm going to get started with the program by showing it on the screen. Here we go. Discussing Senator Joe Manchin with Benjamin Dixon and Rebecca Azor. Texas grid fraud. Big lie continues. Let's go ahead and get started with the Texas grid fraud. We all remember the Texas power grill failure during the freeze. We were supposed to, the government 10 years before told us, hey, take care of your problem. Make sure that you winterize all those generators, etc. We did nothing. We deregulated everything. And since we're deregulated and we have our own grid in Texas, electric grid in Texas, we said to hell with what anybody have to say. We do it our way. And of course, the freeze came, froze the grid. When the grid got frozen, we had power failures throughout Texas. Millions of Texans were out of power. And in the process, many got some huge bills, $10,000 bills, because it's a deregulated market, supply and demand, and whoever is willing to pay more for the available electricity, they pay the going price. Well, it turns out, I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Agency that runs the Texas power grid overcharged power companies billions of dollars for electricity during that last month's ice storm. That explains why some people saw electric bills for almost $10,000. The Public Utility Commission, or PUC, which oversees ERCOT, decided not to reverse the mistake. It's unbelievable. ABC 13 reporter Courtney Fisher.
Here's how the discussion went down during the Public Utility Commission meeting. Again, just ended a few minutes ago. Listen.
We would have to decide that now if we wanted to reprice that. And I'm not inclined to do it today because for the reasons I said. I think that, there were these prices. Decisions were made about these prices in real time based on information that was available to everybody, to all market participants. And they did all sorts of things that they wouldn't have done if the prices were different. And it's just nearly impossible to unscramble this sort of egg.
We're paying for electricity we didn't even have.
ABC 13 data analyst Keaton Fox is here to talk about what this really means. But Keaton, you heard those people Rick we just heard from. He is angry. We're paying for power we didn't even have.
Absolutely. And let's sort of go into depth here on how all of this happened. As you mentioned there, the PUC may have not gone into depth on how it happened, but we're going to. This is the chart of prices for that wholesale power during that week. So this was Saturday and this was Sunday. Let me draw sort of a crude drawing of when power started to go out. You remember it was about here. It was for 2 days, and then it started to come back online. These prices, as you mentioned, this was about $20.
This is normal.
That's normal. When I checked it yesterday, it was about 30.
Okay.
This is 10 grand. So significant difference.
10 grand and the power's out.
Correct. So what should have happened was that these prices should have begun to come back down with how much power was available. It did not do that. So for 2 full days, ERCOT was overcharging those power customers $16 billion. And of course, now we're hearing that they are going to say, yeah, we're just going to let it stay.
Yeah, so why not reverse it? I mean, those people are angry. People are going to hear this right now and be angry about it. Really, what's your take on that?
The Texas grid is really set up like the stock market. You gamble a little bit on supply and demand. In this case, the Public Utility Commission saying, listen, we promised power generators a whole lot of money. And if we reverse it, they're not going to get their money.
It's really upsetting, as you say, just maddening, because the increase was immediate. Why wouldn't the decrease be immediate?
Right.
Now, it's just like the stock market. It's deregulated. It's just like the stock market. And that's the truth. And you know what? The PUC chair was correct. It's crazy to think you can detangle all these different things. And you notice what he said. All the people were fairly, they were all market participants, and it was done fairly. He's right. That is what your unregulated markets look like. And that's why you should not have unregulated markets for power. You should not have unregulated markets for healthcare or any of those things, because during times of crises, these things happen. You hold people with $10,000 bills, and others make a huge profit on, because when there's scarcity, there are huge profits for a very few to make. And they take advantage of it. It's legal. It works in the stock market. That is how we decided in Texas. We voted for people in Texas who decided that we were unfettered capitalist marketers. And in the process of doing that, we have several of our citizens with $10,000 bills, $16,000 bills. And then the governor said, or some of the people said, we are going to try to get others to make it whole, so that these individuals who have to pay the $10,000 or whatever will be covered by the taxpayers, all the taxpayers of the United States, because of the stipends that they're asking for. Having all the taxpayers pay the bills is tantamount to a transfer of wealth from all of us to the select few who took advantage of a freeze, who took advantage of a disaster, who took advantage of a failure that they created. So they make the money by not having to repair or by not having to create good generators, good equipment, make sure that their equipment is winterized. Since they didn't have to invest in that, they made more profits, and they make profits again because they're able to zack the prices wide up. That shouldn't happen. Those people who owe the $10,000 and $15,000 and $20,000 to these power companies, not to get a stipend from the government, but to go bankrupt and leave them holding the bag. And that way, it'll not happen again when people start to say, wait a minute, deregulated markets don't really work. Deregulated market works for the sharks. The people that are in the market aren't the average American citizen. The average American citizen isn't directly in the market, so they can't make decisions. Decisions are made for them. Remember what I've always spoken about? We have the semblance of freedom, the semblance of having of being independent, but there are few who make the decisions. And when they screw up, we get 2008. When they screw up, we get the Texas freeze. When they screw up, we get 1929, because these markets don't work. And then we get to the insurrection. Republican politicians continue to force their people into thinking the wrong way. Check this one out, and then we'll take it on the other side. Is this the one? It's this one. Where is it? Well, it seems like I don't have that one, or do I? Let's see if that's it. It looks like I don't have that one. Anyway, let's go ahead and go to what Tapper had to say with respect to Manchin. It is time to hold the Republican politician, the Republican leadership accountable, because we look at all in the unpatriotic, seditionist, insurrectionists as if these guys are so guilty they are doing this. But you know what? The people that they trust, their leaders, are at fault. We need to hold them accountable. I want you to listen to this Governor Tate of Mississippi, and you see why it is that many of our good friends or good Republican friends still think there may be something wrong with the elections. They can only depend on what's told to them. Check this out.
Former President Trump and his allies have now for months and months continued to spread the false and dangerous lie that the election was stolen. But I want to ask you a simple yes or no question, because your answer a few weeks ago to a colleague kind of raised my eyebrows. Do you accept that Joe Biden is the legitimate, lawfully elected president of the United States?
President Biden is the president of the United States.
But was he legitimately
in our state,
and
we don't
lawfully
allow
elected?
mail-in voting. In our state, we do not allow mail-in voting, and the reason we don't allow mail-in voting is because we think that it allows for lots of opportunities for fraud and other things, and I don't think mail-in voting should be allowed in other states around the nation. But President Biden is the duly elected president, and we're going to do everything we can to work with him to help the citizens of Mississippi.
There are lots of states that Trump won where there's mail-in voting, including Florida, including Ohio, including Utah. I hear you saying Joe Biden is the president. I do not hear you saying he was legitimately elected. FBI Director Chris Wray, former Attorney General Bill Barr have both stated there was no widespread voter fraud, none that could have affected the outcome of the November election. Republican after Republican, Ducey in Arizona, Kemp in Georgia, your colleagues, judge after judge have rejected this argument. This is a dangerous conspiracy theory that tens of people believe. It inspired a domestic terrorist attack on the Capitol. Yes or no, do you accept that the 2020 presidential election was free and fair? Obviously, every election has some questions, but I'm talking about free and fair, legitimately elected Joe Biden, yes or no?
As you said, Jake, every election has some questions, and this one was no different. President Biden is the duly elected president of the United States. That he was certified by all 50 states, either having won or lost. He lost my state by 20 points, but he was certified in each of the individual states. He was certified by the U.S. Congress, and he's the duly elected president.
All right.
But that doesn't mean that we don't have bad laws in the books in other states. It's just a fact.
All right. Some people might point to Mississippi laws and point to bad laws. I hear you, but you did say he's duly elected, so I'll take that as an answer.
That is shameful. That is shameful. That they cannot just admit and say, yes, he won. Donald Trump lost. That's it. And if you want to know why the people still think that, it's because their leadership refuses to tell them the truth. So we have to now make sure to go and make sure those leaders start telling the truth, make sure those leaders are held accountable, because what they're doing is causing a whole lot of the people underneath them, the masses, to get themselves in trouble. And when they go to jail because they're reacting to what they think is not right, when they go to jail for that, these guys are still sipping on their wine and eating their caviar. Let's remember that. And for those good Republicans listening to me right now, if you know the truth, spread it. Don't play the game that there's some sort of conspiracy that you deep in your hearts know doesn't exist. Chuck Todd had to school Joe Manchin on his high view of the filibuster and what it really means. I want you to listen to this and let's take it on the other side.
But as you know, these election reform proposals that the House has passed, and you know Chuck Schumer is very in favor of them, and it's got a lot of sort of Democratic-based support here. Do you believe in the idea of a carve-out where you could pass election-related bills just like you do with budget reconciliation, with 50 votes rather than 60? Are you open to a concept like that?
Well, let me give you this concept, Chuck. What you saw happen with that 50-vote swing and one vote, no matter who it may be, can make a big difference in a tied Senate. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine doing day-to-day operations this way? Can you imagine not having to sit down, or there's no reason for you to sit down with your colleagues on both sides and have their input? The Senate is the most unique body of government in the world, of governing body in the world. It's deliberate. It's basically designed, Chuck, to make sure the minority has input. Right. That's exactly our founding fathers. And now, if you want to make it a little bit more painful, make them stand there and talk, I'm willing to look at any way we can, but I am not willing to take away the involvement of the minority. I've been in the minority, I've been in the majority. And I can tell you the respect I have on both sides when I've been there should be, I got something to say, listen to me. And I want that to happen.
Well, Senator, the filibuster was never an idea of the Founding Fathers. That is a Senate rule that was created by senators later, in fairness. It's not a Founding Father idea. Let me ask you this. You didn't directly answer my question about, would you be willing to go a reconciliation route for election-only bills like H.R. 1?
Let me say this. I'm not willing to go into reconciliation until we at least give bipartisanship or get working together or allow the Senate to do its job. Just by assuming that, hey, they'll never work with us. That's the other side. Right. This is tribal. Republicans will never agree on anything, or Democrats will never agree. I don't subscribe to that. I don't buy into that. There's no need for us to go to reconciliation until the other process has failed. That means the normal process of a committee, a hearing, amendments, Chuck, and that's where I am.
Well, that sounds like if the then what you're saying is if Republicans continue to be unified in opposition and don't have an open mind, then you may change your mind?
Well, I'm not going to change my mind on the filibuster. I'll change my mind if we need to go to a reconciliation to where we have to get something done once I know they have process into it. But I'm not going to go there until my Republican friends have the ability to have their say also. And I'm hoping they'll get involved to the point to where we have 10 of them that'll work with 50 of us, or 15 of them that'll work with 45 of us. However, you know, whatever it takes the majority, and it takes 60 when we're moving it through normal process, I'm for that.
Let's be clear. There's nothing constitutional about the filibuster. Let's be clear. The founding fathers didn't have any words about a filibuster. But most important, who cares if the founding fathers had anything to say about the filibuster if what's working right now or what's not working right now hurts the American people? That is why we have a Congress that makes laws and make changes to help people. And right now the filibuster is being used as a hindrance to helping people. Now, you have to wonder if Joe Manchin is really, really naive, if really he's just attempting to protect his job, given that in West Virginia, he's the only real statewide Democrat that likely can get elected. Is he trying to maintain his position? At some point in time, one has to forget about themselves and do what's right for everybody else to make sure that we as a country can move forward, as we as a country don't get hurt by an evil sect. Now, here is the deal. Joe Manchin is a smart guy, but Joe Manchin does not at this point have the interest of all Americans at hand. But here's the deal. We can't do anything about it. There are a lot of people right now who want to say, oh, we want to hurt Joe Manchin. The truth of the matter is Joe Manchin may just want you to get pretty hard on him to have a good excuse to say, okay, I'll go where my state is, and that is I'll just jump over to Mitch McConnell's side of the aisle, make Mitch McConnell the leader again. So this has to be played smartly, intelligently, because as much as Joe Manchin is a pain in the rear, Joe Manchin is needed until 2022 when we can gain 3 or 4 more senators if we work at it. So right now, hold tight because we have a lot of work to do. And within that work, Joe Manchin, by default, has to play a part. Yeah, and you know, a lot of us progressives, we hate that. We hate that. In other words, we gotta allow him to continue to hold us hostage. But you know what? We don't have a choice. You know, we can scream, we can jump, we can do all of that. We don't have a choice because all Joe Manchin has to do is say, "Okay, you guys treat me too badly, I'll walk." And his state wouldn't mind. His state is a Trump state, a big Trump state. His Democratic governor turned Republican. But he still has democratic values. He has more democratic values than Joe Manchin. You take that. You listen to him. Pass that big bill. It doesn't matter if we waste a bit of money. Just go. You ever heard that guy from West Virginia talk? He's great. I mean, the West Virginia, they're doing the best with injecting, with vaccinating their people. That guy is doing some work out there, you know. But anyhow, look, it is time for me to go ahead and say, folks, please decide to join our Posse, the PDR Posse. Click on that join button if you're on YouTube, if you're on Twitch, or if you are on, let's see, if you're on Twitch, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitch, Facebook, or what's the other place that you're on? Twitch, Facebook, or Periscope. Please go ahead and click on the link that I'm going to put in there, politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. politicsdoneright.com/YouTube, and support what we do, which is trying to get the progressive message out. That is our job. Make sure that we populate the rest of the country with progressive information, given that they have a lot of paid folk out there doing their part. Yes, exactly, Bridge MCP. Join the PDR Posse. Join the PDR Posse. So please go to politicsdoneright.com/YouTube if you want to join it through YouTube. Or if you are so kind, you can hit that $, give us a super chat. Alternatively, you can become a part of our... Oh, before I go into that, You know, Bridge MCP, one of our PDR Posse members, she went ahead and she designed our cups. So we like to highlight the cups that she designed and say, hey, guys, go ahead and consider getting the cup. You're also helping the cause if you do. And how exactly do you get the mug? You get the mug by going to this link right there that I just put on the screen. As you can see, Norman is drinking from the mug, as well as Linda E., who got the mug. But you can also support us via Patreon, Patreon, Patreon. And here's the Patreon link in there. We love your support via Patreon as well. Or you can support us via PayPal. And it is politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. So Patreon is politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. PayPal is politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. And don't forget our book, our new book, and several other books that we have. But the new book is It's Worth It: How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. Your purchase of that book, I tell you, the book has very good reviews. It'll give you some insights. It'll give you some know-how. That's a link on the screen, the Amazon link to get it. But if you want to forego the middleman, you can go directly to our store, politicsdoneright.com/store, politicsdoneright.com/store. Okay, let's get busy and let's go ahead and do the interview that I did today, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Welcome back to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth and not care who doesn't like it. Joining me now is Alberto Willis. He is the host of the political podcast, Politics Done Right, a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. Alberto, thanks so much for joining us. How are you this morning, sir?
Man, it's my pleasure to be on your show, Ben, and it's great being with you, Rebecca. I mean, I watch you guys, and, you know, earlier this morning, I got up earlier than normal to listen to what your intro was going to be, and, man, you guys are on point. You guys are on point.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I was on your program a couple of weeks ago, and I enjoyed myself so much. I'm like, I absolutely had to get you to come on and talk, and I think this is a perfect time. I want to start with Joe Manchin because you have a really robust analysis of all this stuff. Joe Manchin was one of the Democrats, obviously, who voted against the minimum wage increase, and he took to the Sunday shows, CNN's State of the Union with Jake Tapper, and he explained why he fought for less federal aid instead of more. Let's take a look at it real quick.
Changes that you pushed for, enhanced federal unemployment benefits now expire about a month earlier, and there's a new income cap for writing them off on your taxes. I have to say, you represent one of the lowest income states in the nation. Why were you fighting for less help for citizens during this cruel economic time?
Well, Jake, first let me just say it's always good to be with you, okay? And next of all I did was try to make sure that we were targeting where the help was needed. Right now, we're getting $300 to people who are unemployed by no fault of their own. I want that to continue seamlessly. I think that basically, if you look at all the things that we've done in targeting, how we help the families, how we help their children, with child tax credits, there was so much more that we were doing. We're giving more help to individuals than ever before. 300 was seamless. It continues on through the end of August if needed. And that's what we tried to do.
So one of the things he didn't mention there that he actually said online, as well as in a previous interview, is that he didn't think that it should be $400 a week for unemployment because that would de-incentivize workers from going out to find jobs. Alberto, what's your take on Joe Manchin and all of this gaslighting? Well, there you go, gaslighting he's doing.
Joe Manchin is not even consistent with the things that he's saying. He realized how he sounded on some programs, and then he said that the reason he went ahead with the $300 was sort of a technical thing, right? In other words, since the people are getting $300 now, if they go up to $400, it'll create a few weeks where they don't get their pay, which makes no sense. He said that to Martha Raddack on the ABC interview. Yeah. Now, what was distressing is that I didn't hear the appropriate questions because he made a plausible argument. That argument that he said was, but I want to start at $11 because if you see $11, what you'll see is that actually takes a person out of being in poverty. The problem with that is, let's go under the assumption that minimum wage had gone up with inflation. What you would have seen then is that the minimum wage should be over $20 right now. So he wants to start indexing from $11, which is nothing more than wage theft over the last generation. I wrote a piece on this same issue where I said, those of us with a progressive bent, need to change the argument. The argument shouldn't be, oh, people deserve this. The argument should be, why had we allowed wage theft over the last 20 plus years, over the last 30 years? Because what happens is when you go ahead and not increase the minimum wage, that owner of the bakery store, flour goes up every year, sugar goes up every year, butter goes up every year, the rent goes up every year, and that baker pays it every year. And he raises his prices a bit every year. The only thing that stays stagnant is that workers pay, that worker who has no representation. So what that is equivalent to, if you take a look at it, is wage theft, because he or she is the only one who doesn't have the power to say, wait a minute, it went up for everybody else. What about me?
Well, yes. And we know Manchin is known for, he's part of the crew that wants to bring everybody down and make sure that their pockets are fat and keep us down and suffering. So next up, Manchin was on Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace, and there he explained his opposition to removing the filibuster. Let's listen to that.
I'd make it harder to get rid of the filibuster. I'm supporting the filibuster. I'm going to continue to support the filibuster. I think it defines who we are as a Senate. I'll make it harder to get rid of it, but it should be painful if you want to use it. You should make sure the place works to where, okay, I want to work with you. How can we do this? How do we move forward? My Republican friends are my friends. They're not my enemies. And my Democrats is my colleagues. They're not my enemy either. That's my caucus. Together, we've got to make this place work, and it should be harder to invoke pain. It should be painful for us. Don't make it painful for the other side.
Don't make it painful for the... Alberto, what? I'm sorry. Good God. Yeah.
Let me say, before I go into that specifically, it is ironic that what we have is this person. He refers to the Republicans all of the times as my friends, and he refers to Democrats as the Democrat group, or he also says he uses the term my colleagues. He doesn't have that warm feeling with the Democratic side, but it's deeper than that, right? Chuck Todd knocks on this, and Chuck Todd isn't the bastion of liberalism or anything like that. Chuck Todd says, but wait a minute, the filibuster is not in the Constitution. It doesn't have anything to do with what the Founding Fathers want. Not that I care what the Founding Fathers wanted, right? After all, that's 3/5 of a person. But he said, the Founding Fathers didn't even have that, in which Manchin was like, the Founding Fathers wanted this to be a deliberative body. Well, it's not a deliberative body. It's a body that can't get anything done. That's not deliberative. But as far as the filibuster is concerned, he's really protecting himself. He represents neoliberalism like no other, and with his daughter picking up the slack. So that is to be expected.
You're hitting on all these points, right? So it is not a deliberative body. It's a malfunctioning body. It's not getting anything done. And so help the people understand then why the establishment portion of the Democratic Party continues to support people like Joe Manchin, when at times when we need a critical vote, he's always there to side with Republicans.
The establishment, I heard you guys talking about the monarchy earlier, right? And I love the conversation because I love some of how Rebecca put it. But here's the kicker. We have a certain gravity in this country, and the people that are feared the most are the people who empower people. So the establishment has a decision to make. Do we start off a fission reaction? In other words, a chain reaction where people really start to feel empowered. Ben, I know you know about the Powell Manifesto, where when progressive values were really making it big in this country. Lewis said, oh my God, these guys are going to realize that the current economic system, really, they're getting screwed. So we have to make sure and infiltrate everything so that you know, the power base will be lost to the masses if we don't do this. So they infiltrated the colleges, the universities, the school, the media, and many others. That's why I love programs like yours, because you cut the crap. You know, you really cut the crap. The establishment is scared. The establishment of the Democratic Party wants to do more than the establishment of the Republican Party, but they don't want to do too much, because too much means people would be too empowered. Now, as far as Ben Manchin, we are stuck. I think for now we are stuck, because he may think that he has power, but right now we just need to use him for whatever we can get. And then the progressive base really has to empower itself to really put the people that really need to be there in there. And I think we can. I think we can, but I think we have to play it very smart.
So when you say like play it very smart and go, the progressive people have to make sure we empower, are you saying what's the call to action that you're saying we should do? Should we continue pushing to mobilize voting, educating our certain communities about who these local people are, who the people are over their state, who the people are in office, so they know? What would you say that we can move this progressive movement forward? We can continue it to get those people like Manchin out of those spaces.
First of all, I'm going to tell you this. I love what I'm seeing right now. I love what you guys are doing. You all represent the generation that's going to make the change. In other words, what y'all, when I see my younger cohort out there doing this on their own, when I see my younger cohort out there in the streets, when I march with BLM, when I march with Ladies Who Lunch, when I march with all these guys, and I'm not only talking marching for the sake of marching, because damn it, we've done a hell of a lot of marching and no action. Okay, what I've seen is people now who are effecting change, people who are really making a difference in what they're doing. So I think that is what's important. So when you ask me what's the call for action, the call for action is let's get busy and continue doing what we're doing. Go TV, educating. I think the biggest part is educating people to what is actually happening and how things work. You guys are doing a good job. I see a lot of other organizations, a lot of other small things doing the same thing. So I think we are correctly on track. I think we have to keep it up. I think the one piece that we're missing right now is integration of all these disparate pieces that are doing hard work.
No, that's huge. And I think that has to be the next stage in this evolution, right? Like the disparate pieces in media, which is why, like, when we connected, I'm like, I want us to continuously connect, because without us unifying at some level, it doesn't mean we all have to start a company together. But if we don't have like some camaraderie amongst all of these different platforms, these different media outlets, these different organizations that are doing organizing on the ground, we're fighting up against some pretty powerful forces, right? The infiltration that you spoke of, right? It's real. And Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema are representative of that, along with so many other Democrats who are in these spaces occupying seats for the purposes of preventing progress. We're fighting up against billionaires who can drop $10 million on one person's podcast, on Ben Shapiro's podcast. So without that unification, Alberto, I don't think we're going to make it. Could you speak on that a little bit more?
Yeah, well, I several years ago, when I started doing this, I said, what I want to do, one of the things I want to do is work in collaboration all over. And what I mean is not only online, I mean in print, I mean in every fashion together, people. Because when you take polls as far as what people want are the things that many of us represent. And the problem is we have forgotten things like one person, one vote, even though with the Electoral College that presents an issue. But in the aggregate, one person, one vote. And what we have to do is detach money from people's vote. There's nothing that says inherently that if I throw a lot of money at something, that inherently they're going to vote a certain way or whatever. An educated person will take your money and vote their conscience. And I think that is where you come in, where Rebecca come in, where all of us come in. And that is to say, you know, I mean, if you take a look at my website, I have ads from the corporate structure. Some people would say that's hypocritical. And I say, well, why is that hypocritical? I'm using the funding that that in the aggregate, all of us produce to go ahead and do good. What you're doing is do good. And what is doing good? Education. I can tell you, from the different audiences that I have, and I'm sure it is the same for the different audiences that you guys have. People, the letters that you get that say, wow, I didn't realize that. I really feel empowered. Now I am going to do something. Yeah. The problem is that since our reach in the aggregate is not large, like, you know, you get on ABC, when, come on, Ben, when you are on MSNBC, you have millions of people watching you right away. But when you are on, you know, AlbertoWillis.com or Politics Done Right, you have a few thousand people that are going to see your podcast and these other things. But the way you increase the scale is through what I call geometric progression. Geometric progression says if one person talks to 5 and teaches that 5 persons how to talk to 5, if you take a look at how geometric progression works, you can reach the entire country. But everybody has to be on point, and everybody has to be educated to how this stuff really works and not feel defeated. I have one person on my show all the time, but the rich people always win. And I'm like, because most of the people feel the way you do. Now let's talk about how do we change that feeling?
Yes. And you say that, how do we change that feeling? We have to walk in that, not only because we're so used to, as a society built for us, we're so used to saying, okay, this is it for us. And we're just never going to be rich. We're not supposed to be rich. This is just our life. And you said something like, you've been talking about our show and how you like it. And I appreciate that so much. That's an honor. Thank you so much. You come from a background in a software company, 20 years in a software company, and you decided to flip it on its head and bring it over to progressive politics. So what led you to that avenue?
Yeah. You know, I'm going to be extremely honest. First of all, my website was making enough for me to be able to make, I mean, first of all, it's altruistic, yes, but you can't have altruism with a starving belly. So, so I was making enough from the website that I could make the transition. I turned my license over to somebody, the license for the products that I created, to another good friend of mine. And then I started this sports, because I've always been active at the University of Texas. I was in the South African Liberation Action Committee, the Afro-American Culture Committee, the Caribbean Central American Association, and all these things. So I've always been active politically. When I went to work for corporate America, you know, I had to tamper that down and blog with a pseudonym. When I formed my own software company, of course, I had to blog with a pseudonym. But when my daughter went off to college, I could really be who I wanted to be. And many times I would sit down in dark and like, damn, somebody got to do something about that. Somebody has got to say something about that. Or when somebody says something on the TV that makes no sense, it's like, why isn't somebody talking about that? Right. And I remember sitting down in the dark once and saying, well, damn it, you're always talking about what somebody has to do. You do it. And since I was a software guy and I understood computers, all that good stuff, I just created my own little one-person production company and started doing it. And when it came to doing things like, well, when they say something wrong on TV, who's there to refute it? Well, I started doing that. I hear Chuck Todd say something or something that should be asked. Like I didn't hear them ask Manchin about wage theft. So I did a blog with the video that says he should have asked that, you know, and put it out there. Got, I don't know, probably 20, 30,000 views on that. So, I mean, it was, all of us have our core profession when we go to college. And then I say the next thing we have is a passion and a reason. And now I'm doing my passion for a reason.
Yes. Politics done right.
Yeah,
I feel that.
I felt that, man. Tell everyone how they can find your work and watch your show and your podcast.
Well, thank you for giving me that opportunity. You can go to politicsdoneright.com, politicsdoneright.com to visit us. You can also go to Twitter and subscribe to Alberto Willis. That's on the screen right now. Or you can also go to our YouTube channel, which is also Alberto Willis. So And by the way, if you go to egbertowillis.com, you can check out some of our books as well. I just recently wrote a book called It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Friends, your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. And the book, the reason I wrote that book was specifically because Rebecca asked earlier, how do we actually change, right? And how do we get rid of the folks like Manchin and all these guys? We are going to have to bring other people into the fold. And whether they're progressives or not is of least importance. What's of most importance is how are they going to vote? Are they going to support the policies that support us all?
I just absolutely love, I love your work. And I've followed your work for some years. But more importantly, just, the way you say Rebecca, and it just, I've been struggling. I don't want to mess up your name over and over and over again. I feel like the country dude from Mississippi when I say Alberto, and then you just you're just rolling those.
I love that. I love that, Rebecca.
Say it, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Please say it for me, Rebecca. Say it.
Alberto.
There you go, Alberto. I love you, Rebecca. That was great.
Rebecca.
Normal. When I look at the name, that's what I see, So, but Ben kept saying how you say it, and I'm like, that's
so from Mississippi, we say Alberto. But actually, what I'm saying, I'm just gonna say E. Hey, thanks, E, for coming on the show. We'd love to have you back anytime. We really appreciate the work.
Man, it's my pleasure being. And what I want to tell you guys, thank you for what you all do. What you all do is extremely important. And, I'm honored to be on your show.
Oh, man, we appreciate that. We'll be back with the Rebecca at the beginning of it. That's it did it for
Rebecca.
But putting it in the like Alberto is
Alberto. You see, it's like you're adding 55 more R's.
How many R's? How many R's should it be?
I don't know. Alberto. It's just like Ber. I don't even know why it's a thing, but when I saw the name, I knew what it sounded like, but I don't even realize that I'm rolling my R's until you just keep.
I mean, listen, like it's E. Thanks so much for coming on.
I had to cut that little piece in because after I got off the show and saw that, it's like, oh, that is so funny. They're messing with my name and having fun with my name. Anyhow, guys, hey, thank you for having been here, Michael Rudnin. Guys, thank you so kindly. We are coming close to the end of the show, but I would like, before I get loose here, I'd like to salute all you wonderful people that came here and spent some time with us. So let's get calling. Michael Rudnin, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard, AVQ. Welcome aboard, British MCP. Eric Hayes. Julie Van Osdel, Eric Hayes again. Let's see who else. Daniel Ledo. Let's see. Welcome aboard. I think I said Julie Van Osdel already. So Nanette Bird Smith. Welcome aboard. Republicans don't care about the commoners. Republican politicians. Let's keep our people together. Let's make sure and put it on the politicians who are misleading their fold. Let's see. Continuing down. Courtney the SLP. Am I missing something? I don't know what SLP is. Tag 777, welcome aboard. Coming down the pike. Let's see who else is here that I forgot to name. If I forget, Brian Miner, but you don't buy stocks you never got. That is true relative to Texas. Absolutely so. Definitely so. Okay, Tom C. Senator Joe Manchin supports a talking filibuster, requires any senator who wants to debate to remain on the floor and speak for the entire team. Result, filibuster more painful and less frequent. But will it work with these obstinate ones? I don't know. I think I want to get rid of it altogether, but we'll see what we can do about it. We'll see. Wendy Green, in a parliamentary system, the majority needs one vote. However, bills go through 3 read-ins and committees before the final vote, and often changes are made. Manchin is a dino. I can't understand why he doesn't run as a Republican. Not yet. Let's hold on. We need him right now. Wendy Green, we need him. Parth 07, Superman. Oh, really? You're a Superman, Parth 07? And Parth is... he's completely concerned about the meager amount of people watching this stuff live. We get a lot of our viewers. In fact, the vast majority of our viewers come afterwards. We may not have the best time slots. We need to get a person that handles our stuff in real time, but we got very darn good views. Take a look at our YouTube channel. You see things with 15, 20,000 views. That's not too shabby, I don't think, for a small one-person operation. We want more people, but we have to get more members first. Wendy Green, welcome aboard. Let's see who else is here. Para ver quién más está aquí. Desert Claire, welcome aboard. Thank you for being here. Paul Fleming, ATL checking in. Paul, you're late. Normally I'd see you earlier, brother, but thank you for being here. Love you, brother. Keep on going down and keep on heading down. Roberto Luis, mi panameño favorito. Espero que todo va bien. Llámame cuando tienes tiempo, hermano. Thank you for loving the show, brother, and supporting the show. Al Rose, good show. Eggy. Al and I grew up back in Panama. And, you know, there was a time in Sabanitas, quick story. In Sabanitas, the town in Colon, where I'm from, he came to visit me in Sabanitas, Al Rose. And he never makes me forget this. We were messing around in town. And we were running in this field, and we were locked in this field around 3 walls of fences, so one way out. And we were just perusing, and a guy came out with a machete. Un machete, salió con un machete. And we were running. And all we heard is a guy say, El negro se va. El negro se va. And he has never... No, actually the negro se va was in Costa Rica. That was another incident. Actually, Negro Se Va was in Costa Rica. We went to Costa Rica, the country Costa Rica, and we were coming out of a club. We were going to sing with the Gospel Messengers, and we were coming out of a club, a bunch of groups. And when a fight broke out, we decided we needed to get out of Dodge, and the guy said, El Negro Se Va. Yeah, I remember that now, Alros. Great story. June Littler, filibuster is ruled by the minority. You're absolutely right, Gene. Norman Reynolds says, hey, guy, don't forget, yo estoy aquí también. I am here, too. I know you're here, Norman. You know, Norman, great guy. Mi hermano de Jamaica, my Jamaican brother. Just one more thing, Alberto Willis. Thank you for pronouncing my name properly. LOL. Thank you. I try my best. You see how they were playing with my name on the other show? But hey, love it. Anyhow, folks, please remember to support the program. politicsdoneright.com/patron. politicsdoneright.com/patron if you want to become a patron. politicsdoneright.com/PayPal if you want to become a supporter over PayPal. Or politicsdoneright.com/YouTube to join our YouTube posse. Suggest you go ahead and get our book. It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing neighbors, your family, friends, and neighbors. And you can also visit our store, politicsdoneright.com/store. Folks, I know you can be anywhere. I want to thank you for being here with us. Come back tomorrow. We always have new stuff for you. We have a lot of interviews lined up. We have about 2 or 3 in the queue right now that I'm still processing. We get good people for good interviews with good stuff. My name is Egbert. Last minute, let's see. May Wood. You know, I'm not gonna leave us if people keep telling me, oh, I'm here too. Welcome aboard, May Wood. Anybody else who wants, before I'm about to check out, who else here that didn't put themselves in the Politics Done Right feed or the Facebook feed or the YouTube feed? Let me salute you anyhow. My name is Alberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what again? Out. Hey, it didn't work. It is going to work. I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Alberto Willis. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Alberto Willis. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.